Good morning all of you. Welcome to a course Database Management System. In today's lecture we are going to discuss ER Diagram Part 2. In previous lecture we discussed about the basics of ER diagram, which includes what is ER diagram, why do we need to develop a ER diagram before implementing a database, what are the components of the ER diagram such as entity, relationship and attributes. Then we discuss about various types of attributes, various types of relationship. So this is all about the basics of a ER diagram. Now in the today's lecture we are going to discuss various examples of a ER diagram. So in this case you observe that these are the various examples of a ER diagram. Here we can observe this teacher teaches student. So this is a kind of relationship exists. Teachers is a relationship exists between teacher and student. Then another diagram is there. Here you can see employee works for department. Then again you observe that student enroll in the course, student enroll in the course. So in this case what is the difference between this and this? This is a one-to-one kind of relationship which is shown with the help of arrow. Okay, and this is a many-to-one kind of relationship. Many students enroll in single course. See, I want to tell you one thing. If you refer different book, different resources, you may find different notations are used to represent a type of relationship, okay, between two entity. In this case use the arrow, but another convention that we can use over here, in order to represent one, on the top of the arrow we'll write 1, and to represent many we'll write a n on the top of this arrow. So between student and course different kind of relationship may be there. Here it is represented one to one, here it is represented as a many to one. Similarly many to many kind of relationship may also exist between student and course. So here you can observe student enroll course. So here you can say many student enroll to many course, and in order to show this many we can use another convention. Here on top of this arrow we can write n, here also on the top of this arrow we can also write a n. So these are a few examples of a ER diagram. Here you know that rectangle is representing a entity, whereas diamond shape is representing a relationship between two entity. Okay, this diamond shape will represent relationship between the two entity. One is a student, second one is a course, student, course, employee, department. Now the next topic is extended ER features. So there are three extended ER feature involves in ER diagram. First one is a generalization, second one is a specialization, and third one is a aggregation. So one by one we'll discuss all these three. First one is generalization. So here you can observe this particular diagram. We can say that generalization is a bottom up approach where number of lower level entity combines together to form a single higher level entity. So how to read this particular diagram? You can say saving is a account, current is a account. So these are two lower level entity, and account is a higher level entity. And why we call it as a bottom up approach? Because it is going to read in the bottom up fashion, and this generalization will make use of a symbol ism. It is generalization concept is represented with the help of is a kind of relationship. So here we can say that is a kind of relationship exists between account and saving account and the current account. So this is what a concept of generalization. Exactly opposite to concept of generalization, there is a concept of specialization. So in specialization what you can see, it's a top down approach. In generalization it's a bottom up approach, whereas specialization is a top down approach. So here what you observe, one higher level entity is divided into number of lower level entity. So here you observe this student is a higher level entity which is divided into two types such as ex student and current student. So how we are going to read this particular diagram? Student is a ex student or student is a current student. So in this way specialization concept is represented by this ER diagram in top down fashion. So generalization is a bottom up approach, whereas specialization is a top down approach, and both these approaches are exactly opposite of each other. Now the next approach is of aggregation. So what is the concept of aggregation? See, aggregation is a concept where first of all a particular uh, relation act as a particular thing act as a, see, in this case we can say that offer is a relationship between center and course, and later on it becomes a entity. So aggregation is a process where relationship between two entity treated as a single entity in another case. Now here in this particular example we can observe that offer is a relationship between center and course. Okay, so how can you read this diagram? Center, offer, course. Okay, so here offer is a relationship, but later on in second part it becomes a entity. So how you can going to read this? Visitor, enquire of offer. So in this case offer act as a entity. That means here offer is a word which initially act as a relationship, but later on it becomes a entity. So whenever you will find such kind of concept, you can call it as a aggregation. So these are the three extended ER feature which can be useful while drawing a ER diagram. Now the next topic is the concept of weak entity and strong entity. So we should know what is weak entity, what is strong entity, and when to say particular entity is a weak entity. Now in this particular example I can say payment is a weak entity. So why payment is a weak entity? So the entity which do not have sufficient attribute to form a primary key, that entity is called as a weak entity. Now in this case important concept is there, primary key. Means I think you don't know what is primary key. So primary key is a such a attribute in any table which help us to uniquely identify every record of the table. So I will give simple example. Suppose in a particular class I need to identify all the students uniquely. So what attribute I should use? Can I use name? No. Maybe the case that two students may have same name, but roll number of the two student never can be a same. So in that case I can use roll number as a primary key. I can say for particular class I can say roll number is a primary key. Why? Because based on the roll number I can uniquely identify every student of the class. That's why for any particular table primary key is very important. And while drawing ER diagram we will make sure that one attribute should be a primary key attribute, because ultimately that entity it becomes a table. So in this case I can say that payment is a weak entity. Now what are the attributes of the payment? Payment number, payment date, and payment amount. These are the attributes of this particular entity payment. And why we are saying that it is a weak? Because it do not have sufficient attribute to form a primary key. Now what is the problem in payment number? Why payment number cannot be a primary key? So in order to explain this I will give simple example. See, suppose I have taken a loan from SBI. I have taken two loans. One is a home loan and second one is a vehicle loan. As I have taken a loan, I need to pay the EMI. So for home loan, I need to pay EMI of 10,000 rupees, and for vehicle, I need to pay a EMI of 15,000 rupees. So my home loan number is different and my vehicle loan number is different. So I need to pay total 15,000, 10,000 for home loan and 5,000 for vehicle loan or say car loan. So in that case, instead of paying it separately, what I have done, I have paid 15,000 collectively. That means loan one of the loan number is for home loan and for another is car loan. So for that total 15,000 I have paid. So in that case for home loan I have say loan number is 101, and for car loan I have loan number as 102. But what about payment number? Whether do I have different payment number? No, I have suppose payment number is 11. Okay, so how can you represent this? Home loan 101 and payment number is 11. Car loan is represented by 102 and its payment number is again 11. So in this case payment number can be repeated. Suppose person have taken a two loan, so in that case payment number can also be repeated. That's why payment number cannot be a primary key for this particular payment entity. So as it do not have sufficient attribute to form a primary key, payment act as a weak entity, and weak entity is represented by double rectangle. This double diamond represent identifying relationship, and this loan is a strong entity, or also it is called as a identifying entity set. So the weak entity always depends on strong entity, and it is associated with entity set called as a identifying entity set. So we can say that loan is a strong entity or identifying entity set, and this diamond is representing this diamond loan payment will represent identifying relationship set. So primary key, strong entity always have primary key attribute. In this case loan is a strong entity as it has a primary key attribute loan number, whereas payment is a weak entity because it do not have primary key attribute, sufficient primary key attribute. So in that case, how the primary key is formed? Primary key is formed with the combination of these two attributes, loan number with payment number. See, primary key can be formed with more than one attribute also. In this case, for payment table, primary key is a combination of loan number and payment number. Though the payment number is same, but loan number is different. So in this case we can say that combination of loan number and payment number act as a primary key for entity payment. So this is a concept of weak entity and strong entity. The concept of weak and strong entity is also useful while drawing a ER diagram. Now the next concept is what are the steps that you need to follow while drawing a ER diagram for any system. As we know that before start implementation of a database, we need to draw the ER diagram, because ER diagram is a diagrammatic representation. As we know that before implementing any program, generally we draw a flowchart, because flowchart is a diagrammatic representation of a program. Similarly, while implementing a particular database, first of all we need to draw the ER diagram. So here I am going to tell you three basic steps that you need to follow while drawing a ER diagram for any particular system, or say for your project. So very first you need to identify what is the domain for which you are going to develop a database. After identifying that, you need to identify what are the entities in a given system. Okay, we'll take a simple example. Suppose I need to develop a project for library system. So in that case, first of all I need to identify what are the entities are there. So entity is nothing but a object. So student is one of the entity in library, which is having some attributes. So what are the attributes for the student? So roll number of the student, name, contact number, address, phone number, email ID. So these are the various attributes of the student. Then also you have another entity called as a book, which is having a attribute book ID, book name, then author, publisher, number of pages, and so on. So these are the various attributes for the book table. So first of all you identified this entity, then you need to identify the attributes, and then you need to identify the relationship between two entities. So one entity is a student and another entity is a book. So I need to identify the relationship between these two entities. See, relationship play a very important role, because while drawing ER diagram you need to make sure that whatever the entity that you are taking, whatever the relationship that you are taking, for that you are developing a table. That's why its name should be appropriate one. So while deciding a relationship name between two entity, you need to follow certain things which I have listed over here. So your first choice would be the noun. Okay, first choice would be the noun. So suppose here I have two entity, one is a customer and second one is a loan. So in that case, borrower means any particular noun is available. Yes, so the customer who take loan, that person is called as a borrower. So in this case sufficient noun is available. See, noun is available, that's why I have taken borrower. So in this case, how can you read this? Customer, borrower, loan. So I will create one customer table, borrower table, as well as the loan table. So in this case, I have taken borrower as a name of relationship because it is available. Now second choice is verb. When noun is not available, in that case you have second choice, and that second choice should be a verb. So suppose I have two entity, one is a seller and second one is a boat. So in order to establish a relationship, is there any noun is available? Suppose no, so second choice would be verb. So I will take reserve as a relationship between seller and boat. So how can you read this particular diagram? Seller, reserve, boat. Seller, reserve, boat. So reserve is a verb. Then suppose in particular case, so suitable noun is not available, suitable verb is also not available. So in that case, what you will do? You will take combination of both. Okay, so in this case you will take a combination. In this case, two entities there, one is a loan and second one is a payment. So here, in order to take a relationship between these two, I have taken the relationship name as a loan underscore payment. Why is it so? Because in this case, no sufficient noun and no sufficient verb is available. So my third choice would be the combination of both. So these are the three steps that you need to follow while drawing ER diagram. Again, you need to keep in your mind that whatever the entity name, that should be always given in singular form. You never say customers, you never say sellers, always it is seller, because it's a entity set. And what is entity set? It's a group of entities. So you never find that anybody using plural name in case of a entity name. Okay, so that these are the various things that you need to consider while drawing a ER diagram. So I hope you understand all these concepts. So in today's lecture, we have discussed concept of extended ER feature, which involves generalization, specialization, and aggregation. Then we discussed the concept of weak entity and strong entity. And finally, we discuss what are the steps that we need to follow while drawing a ER diagram, and what are the things that we need to consider while drawing a ER diagram. So here we'll stop. In the next lecture, we are going to see how to draw a ER diagram for particular problem statement. So I hope all of you understand each and everything. Thank you.